Hi guys, welcome back to Read Instead. I'm Jake. Glad to have you here today. Another one of my instant reaction videos today. It's going to be Michael Connelly's The Last Coyote. This is my instant reaction to it. Stick around. Okay, so I just finished this book this morning. I had about 3 chapters left last night, and I really didn't want to make a video last night. It was getting pretty late, so I decided to leave the rest of the book until this morning. And I finished it this morning, and I enjoyed it, as I've enjoyed every Michael Connelly novel that I have read. As I mentioned in my last video, I'll talk about this again. Michael Connelly is a crime writer. He's based out of Los Angeles. He was a reporter, a newspaper reporter at the beginning of his career, and I believe in the early 90s is when he started to get into being a novelist and writing fiction. And he started out with this detective series, this Harry Bosch detective series, which, as I say the name Harry Bosch, some of you might realize that there is an Amazon, I believe it's Amazon Prime series. I don't know, I've never watched an episode. I probably won't, because as soon as I watch something on TV and I get those visuals of those characters and stuff like that, it'll mess with my mind a little bit and sort of substitute for the characters that I already have in my own imagination that I've made up. I already have an image of how Harry Bosch looks, and I already have an image of how Assistant Chief Irving looks in my mind, and some of the other characters that have continued throughout the series, the characters who have stuck around. And so I don't really have any desire to get into the TV show. There's like 22 books in this series, so I'm going to just keep reading them at my own pace. But let's talk about The Last Coyote. Okay, so the premise of this book is different than the last 3 books that I read in this series, in the sense that Harry's on his own. He's working outside of the LAPD. He's on a paid leave, and that's sort of a recurring theme. One of the biggest character flaws that Harry deals with, that he's very quick to anger, and this anger sometimes has often gotten him into some trouble. But a lot of the higher ups and the brass throughout the LAPD sort of, I don't think, come down on him as hard, because he's such a good detective. There are some sort of higher ups who are really against him, and all they want to do is bury him. There's this whole division within the LAPD called the IAD, which is, I believe, Internal Affairs Division, and that's basically a division within the LAPD that police the police. And any if police get out of line or they bend the rules, there's investigations that go on and consequences that can come their way. So this novel opens up with Harry being on paid leave because he actually got into a fight with his superior officer and ended up putting his head through a glass window. I don't know if that would just terminate your detective career in real life. I don't know. That seems a bit much. But nonetheless, he's on paid leave, and he's waiting to see if he's going to be allowed back onto the detective force. Also, while he's on his paid leave, he needs to go to a police therapist, a psychiatrist, to evaluate some of his anger and stuff like that. And throughout this whole novel, the meetings back in the therapist's room are sort of, it's cool, because I feel like Michael Connelly has a good way of doing that. The story continues to evolve and progress, and sometimes it feels like things are going 100 miles an hour because of all the forensic stuff that Harry is chasing down. But then Michael Connelly always has a way to put Harry back into a space where he can sort of just sit and compute the whole thing in his mind and start to sort of talk his thoughts out, whether internally or externally to someone. And that's really good for the reader, because it allows you to catch your breath and sort of get in front of the case and where it's going. And I really appreciate that. And that was, and in this particular novel, that was when Harry went to therapy and talked about what was going on in his mind. So he's on paid leave, and this gives Harry an opportunity to really start to reflect about his life. And he goes on his own to solve the murder of his mother. This was we knew this. This, the first novel in the series, and it's been a theme throughout the first 3 books, that Harry was orphaned. He had a single mother that took care of him and was a prostitute, and she was murdered. And when she was murdered, he was put in an orphanage, and he kind of bounced around from different foster homes, and then he was actually, in his teenage years, he was put into like a teen sort of community youth center, and that's where he remained until he went to Vietnam. That's Harry Bosch's early life story. But in this novel, Harry sets off to solve his mother's murder. It was never solved. It was a cold case, and he always carried this weight that his mother, she was killed in a very brutal way, and she was thrown into a dumpster. And so you can imagine that he always had this he had this weight, this sort of weight around his neck, carrying that. Also, his mother, and all the interactions that he talks about when he was a youth with his mother was someone who really cared for him and loved him. She wasn't like a drug addict or anything. She just chose that. She just fell into that line of work, I suppose. But so this novel, Harry sets off to solve his mother's murder. It comes to light that his mother was caught up with a lot of sort of important people that had power to wield. These include people like aspiring politicians. These include detectives. People who surround themselves in political circles and stuff like that. And it basically, when you think about it, it's like, especially back in the day, even so today, the bureaucracies sort of all work together. People who have power in certain, in certain areas and fields of life sort of all, they can work together. And it's like politicians can work with the Department of Justice, and detectives can work with just people who have aspirations of power, and there's paybacks, and I owe you one and you owe me one, and we're going to slide this under the rug, but nobody can actually figure us out, because we're the ones, it's our job to actually figure these things out. I hope you guys are sort of understanding what I'm saying. I don't want to give too much of the story away, but Harry starts to uncover some really shady people that his mother was mixed up with. The cool thing about this novel is that I can't remember if his other past novels were like this, but the twists and turns don't stop until you get to, literally like the second to last page, which I really appreciated. It just kept twisting and turning and twisting and turning until the truth is revealed. So all in all, I really like this novel. I think it displayed how good of a detective Harry Bosch is. It kept you thinking the whole time. There was nothing I really predicted. Although I try not to let my mind run with too many predictions as I'm reading sort of a mystery thriller. I think, what's the point, right? Just let the story unfold. But he comes into contact with a lot of elderly people that used to be, the high echelon elites of 1960s Los Angeles. And they thought they were gonna go to their grave with these dirty secrets. but you know, Harry Bosch comes into their life and that doesn't happen. So for me, I'm going to give this book, as I believe I've given every Michael Connelly novel that I've read so far, I'm going to give it 4 stars on Goodreads, a solid 4 stars. And I would recommend anybody who's interested in, you know, a crime fiction. Another reason why this particular series really is entertaining for me, because, you know, LA and that, I've never even been to LA, and I live on the other side of the country, and it's very sort of exotic to me. So when Michael Connelly paints the landscape, which he does a great job of doing, it just really brings me in. It brings me in, and it's you know, usually when I read books that take place in Boston, when the author tends to sort of paint a picture for me, it's not that intriguing, and it's not that, you know, it's not exotic to me, because, you know, I know what that looks like. But when he talks about, you know, Harry leaves the precinct and he's heading up the you know, Ventura Boulevard, and the sun is setting, and he talks about the orange glow of the sun, you know, setting behind the mountains. It's like, it just really brings me in. I hope you guys check it out. Take care.